Greetings one and all, I'm your host Gaijin Goomba, and on this show, we're going to be talking about this, and what it has to do with these. Seems simple, right? Well, you'd be surprised. Now, not too terribly long ago, the awesome people at Extra Credits did an episode that talked about the effects of tangential learning in gaming as seen here. They were able to show that video games have the ability to indirectly teach gamers about several different, if not somewhat complex things about history, culture, etc. Well, I want to one-up the idea and prove to you today that with a little bit of wiki research, you can find an incredible amount of information about Japanese language, history, and culture from some of the most obscure places, like, for example, Mario. Now, on the surface, there isn't much you can say about Mario that almost everyone doesn't know. He's Italian, he's from Brooklyn, he can jump 5 times his own height, he gets power-ups from eating assorted plants, has rivalries with giant tie-wearing apes and a fire-breathing snapping turtle. And when you say that out loud, you realize how crazy that sounds. Now, a lot of people want to write off Mario as a basic Western fantasy hero fights dragon to save princess story. But would you believe me if I told you that nearly the entirety of design and naming of characters in the Super Mario franchise has a deep core of Japanese culture tied to it? For example, we all know of PETA's stupidity involving Mario 3D Land. For gamers who had never played Mario 3, they may have been wondering, what the heck is a Tanuki? Everyone who had played Mario 3 may have said, "Stupid PETA! Mario gets the Tanuki suit from a leaf, not skinning way." Why does Mario use a leaf to become a Tanuki? And just what is a Tanuki, judging from Mario's suit anyway? Some sort of bear with a raccoon tail? And why the did this give him the ability to turn to a statue? Either way, this is the point to where those who have interest in the Mario franchise may decide to look it up for themselves. Maybe they'll find a book of Japanese folklore that explains that Tanuki are a raccoon-like animal who were believed to be pranksters who could turn into various objects or people, and sometimes using a leaf as a spell component. And now, not only does this whole thing make a lot more sense, but they actually learned something about Japan through an interest of a very simple video game. How about the Koopa Troopa? Well, if you popped over to the Mario Wikipedia, you could easily learn that the Japanese name for these guys is Noko Noko. Now I know what you're thinking. Noko Noko? The crap is that? Well, a direct translation would tell you that Noko Noko is a sort of adjective to describe someone who is acting unconcernedly. Judging from the way Koopa Troopas don't seem to pay much attention to their surroundings, I think the name fits pretty well, don't you? And boom! You learned a Japanese word for a pattern of behavior. Now some of you may be saying, well, that's easy enough, but what about those of us who don't know about the Mario Wikipedia? Well, back in Mario RPG, there was a subtle hint that may have pushed you in the right direction. Remember about a quarter through the game you found a weapon called the Knock Knock Shell? Well, let me add something. And there you go. Kinda cool, huh? Now next, let's consider the Mighty Goomba. What? Well, in Super Mario Bros. 3, you remember a rare power-up called the Karibo Shoe? You remember what was inside it? Well, as you've probably already guessed, a Goomba in Japanese is called a Karibo. No, not that. This. Yep, Kuri is Japanese for chestnuts. Now, Goombas may resemble large take mushrooms, but they also have a keen resemblance to chestnuts, particularly in Super Mario World. See? And lo and behold, you just taught yourself a Japanese word without even cracking a textbook. How about Lakitu? Well, believe it or not, Lakitu's Japanese name has a huge legacy. In Japanese, he's known as Jigemu. Now, Jigemu is a main character from a folklore story of the same name. Now, I won't sit here and rattle on about the story, but trust me when I say it's pretty humorous. In fact, it's the most often told story in Rakugo, which is basically a sort of old Japanese-style stand-up comedy. Ironically, they're sitting down, but never mind, just roll with it. Do you see what happened? If you were curious enough to dig into Lakitu's Japanese name, you would actually learn about one of Japan's most well-known comedic folk stories. What do you think Womps, Thwomps, and Cheep Cheeps have in common? Well, their Japanese names, Batan, Dosun, and Puku Puku respectively, are Japanese onomatopoeia for the sounds or actions that they make. Yay for more vocabulary! Or heck, you could even learn something about Japan through Mario on total accident. Now, Bowser, as we all know, is named Koopa in Japanese, or this. A lot of gamers know that Koopa got his name from the Japanese naming of Kubab, a Korean dish. But just look at this. If you took the ku and made it ka, you get kappa, the name of a turtle monster in Japanese folklore who has an affinity for kidnapping. Sound familiar? I always thought Koopa was named after the kappa, and even though I was wrong, I learned something. This really doesn't even scratch the surface on all of the language and culture you can learn about Japan through the Mario franchise. Even more, this is just one game. Consider the possibilities with other video games in the market and what they can teach. I know this all seems really random, but the point is, video games as a popular interactive medium have the ability to expose its user base to a variety of cultures, languages, and ideas. In this case, by just being interested enough in the Mario characters and doing a brief amount of Wikipedia searching, there is a ton of information you can learn about Japan that is so easy to learn. It didn't take joining a class or traveling to the country to understand all of these different aspects of Japanese language and culture. By following your interest in a very basic video game, you've unlocked a vast amount of knowledge. By doing so, perhaps we can all understand a little bit more about the country that gave birth to so many great games. And maybe, just maybe, we can understand about our Japanese gaming brethren a little bit better. Well, sadly that's all the time I have. Thanks for watching, everyone. This is Gaijin Goomba, signing out.